All right, this is part two. Let's start. It says, Roman policy towards the Jews, expulsions from the city of Rome during the first century CE, okay, or AD. In the first century, Jews were expelled from Rome on various occasions. Ancient literary sources often offer contradictory information on these expulsions. As a result, scholars have offered different reconstructions on what really happened. In contrast to either scholarship on the subject, this article seeks to place the expulsions of Jews from first century uh, Rome into the larger framework of Roman policy toward both Jews and other non-Roman peoples. Right? It is argued that the decision to banish Jews from Rome resulted from pragmatic and not from specifically anti-Jewish considerations. Roman magistrates just wanted to maintain law and order. It is then suggested that the reasons underlying the decision to expel Jews from Rome were essentially the same as those triggering expulsions of other groups such as ISIS worshippers. Remember we went to that before? The Egyptian Jewish mysteries or Israelite mysteries, devotees of Bacchus or astrologers. Such evidence serves to illustrate the two main theses of this article. First, it is argued that in late Republican and early imperial times, Rome never developed a systematic Jewish policy, or Israelite policy should be there. During this period, Rome rather responded to situations when confronted with disputes over Jewish rights or Israelite rights. This conclusion then serves to bolster the second thesis of this paper, namely that in the first century, Rome never pursued a consistent policy of tolerance toward its Jewish or Israelite subjects. Tolerance or intolerance. Let's go here. This is basically like the end of the lesson. Now this says, I'm going to go to the top. I'm not going to read this whole thing, of course. I'm only going to hit the 5 points. Alright? I'm only going to hit the 5 points. So let's continue. It says, Josephus, Suetonius, and Tacitus on the military service of Roman Jews. I'm going to jump around here just to get to the point. Josephus, Suetonius, and Tacitus on military service of the Jews of Rome, discrimination or norm. Introduction. This essay will discuss the well-known episode in which 4,000 Jews, libertines, who were probably all Roman citizens. We went to that before. We went to all the libertines already. Remember, libertines denotes Jews who had been made captives of the Romans under Pompey, but were afterwards set free, and who, although they had fixed their abode in Rome, so the libertines were Jews, Israelites that was set free, Israelites that was taken captive by Pompey the Great, during 63 BC, during the siege of Jerusalem. And they were set free, but they made their abode in Rome. They still lived in Rome. But they had built their own synagogue in Jerusalem, where they frequented whenever they was in that city. So we know who the libertines are. Okay? Were sent to Sardinia as soldiers in 19 CE to repress brigands. Alright? That's referring to that Senatus Consultum, which means what? Decree of the Senate. Which is under the reign of who? Tiberius. Okay, see? So we on point. Okay? The episode which took place during the reign of Tiberius is noted by Josephus, Suetonius, and Tacitus and provides a suitable opportunity to reflect on the status of the Jews in the Roman army. This essay will focus on four main issues: the expulsion itself, the status of the Roman Senate decree in 19 CE regarding Jewish or Israelite military service, how the Jews integrated into the army, and why they were sent specifically to Sardinia, which you mentioned that already with the whole malaria thing. I'm not going to read the whole thing because there's a lot of information here, and it's going to take a lot of time. I'll read a little bit. It says, with respect to the first issue, the expulsion of 19 CE, it seems de facto. I forgot what de facto means. I think that means like by law. Like how you got de facto segregation and de jure segregation. I believe de facto means by law. Yeah, in fact, reality. Okay. In practice, but not necessarily ordained by law. Alright, or not officially established. Let me see if I can find out. Well, we got that. We got the point. I'll read it real quick. like a lot of the segregation in this country. She says de facto. De facto is a Latin expression that means in fact, in reality, in actual existence, force or possession, as a matter of fact, literally from fact. In law, it often means in practice, but not necessarily ordained by law, or in practice or actuality, but not officially established. Okay. Anything else here? All right. Exists, the free dictionary, existing in actuality, especially when contrary to or not established by the law. De facto segregation. Okay, you got different kinds of segregation. De facto segregation, de jure segregation. One form of segregation is segregation that's administered by law. Another law is segregation that was based upon like the people deciding to live in certain areas. But when you go back to the history, you deal with racially restrictive covenants, which racially restrictive covenant was in a deed of a house. It'll say this house cannot be leased or inhabited by or bought or sold to a person of the Negroid race. Okay, and that's the reason why a lot of white people own a lot of houses in Chicago and throughout LA and all throughout the country. The building of the interstate highways and all of that to separate black and white neighborhoods. There's a lot of information on that. But continuing on, it says, it seems de facto that most of the Jews living in Rome were not expelled. Neither those enjoy full Roman citizenship. These were the minority, nor those of servile status. Okay, so it said it seems de facto. Here's what I wanted to get to. It says de facto is a legal term meaning in fact or in reality, which is used to qualify many legal terms. For example, de facto segregation de facto refers to segregation which occurs without any official action by government officials, but results from social, psychological, or economic conditions. So they're saying it seems like it's de facto. It seems like it's not something that's enforced by law, but something that results from social, psychological, or economic conditions. Okay, but let's read on. But you're really set up by law, which would be de jure segregation enforced by law. It's kind of like a mixture of the two, you could say, because in one sense, because it was an official action by the government, because it was the Senatus Consultum, the decree by the Senate in 19 AD, but in the sense it also resulted from social conditions as well. Okay, but continuing on, it says it says I'll read a little bit more. That most of the Jews living in Rome were not expelled, neither those who enjoyed full Roman citizenship. These were the minority, nor those of servile status. The two categories threatened with expulsion were the Jews who enjoyed the status of liberty and the foreign Jews, or peregrini, which that means peregrinius was a term used during the Roman Empire from 30 BC to 212 AD to denote a free provincial subject of the empire who was not a Roman citizen. So Peregrinius was a free subject of the empire, but the person was not a Roman citizen. All right, you jump down. The Latin Peregrinus, foreigner, one from abroad, is a derivation from the adverb peregri, from abroad, composed of per, abroad, agreed, the locative edger or eger, field, country. So that's the point. So it was Jews who were libertines, and also you had Israelites that was amongst them that was from abroad too. So you had Israelites, but you already went to these scriptures. We already went to these scriptures, man. Okay. Let me jump down. There's a lot of information here, which, like I said before, I'm not gonna read all of it. Let me jump down. Click on it. I want to wrap this up. I'll read some. It says, I'm gonna jump here. Suetonius. Wait, let me go to Suetonius real quick. We know who Josephus is. The Jewish scholar, the Israelite scholar. You know who Josephus is. Says Suetonius. Gaius Suetonius Tranquillus, commonly known as Suetonius, was a Roman historian belonging to the Equestrian order. That's all we really need to know. He was a Roman historian. In contrast to Josephus and Tacitus, who was another Roman historian, like you got Tacitus in the Annals of Imperial Rome, who made a statement saying the more laws the country has, the more corrupt the nation, and something along the lines, if I'm not mistaken, seizing the emperor and not in the Senate. So he said that this thing dealing with Israelites or Jews being expelled was something of the emperor, not of the Senate. Okay, It says, in contrast to Josephus and Tacitus, meaning Josephus and Tacitus thought something different. Okay? That's why right here it says, first Josephus reports that the consuls drafted 4,000 Israelite soldiers, and indicating that this compulsory military service was a consequence of the Senatus Consultum and not a decision taken by the emperor. But he said, but Tacitus said he sees the emperor, not the Senate, the source of the law and hence the main authority responsible for the expulsion of the draft. Thus, according to Suetonius, it is Tiberius who legislates against the Egyptian and Jewish or Israelite rights in general. Moreover, Suetonius points out that the Jews drafted for army service were young and the military age, in detail not mentioned by Josephus, or Tacitus. However, as noted above, Suetonius is not specific regarding the destination of the Jews who were drafted, writing simply that they were sent to provinces of less healthy climate, which we already went to that because there was malaria going on in Sardinia. We went to that already. See that? Malaria, Sardinia, in that island. Might be fatal to them. See that? But very little more, then I'm going to get right down to the point to tell you the real reason why. I hit some scriptures and then I'm going to close it out. Tacitus, like Josephus, sets this episode more generally within the context of the Senate debate to forbid Egyptian as well as Israelite rights in Rome. Once more, Tacitus, like Josephus, points to the Senatus Consultum and not to the emperor as a legal source for the military service of the Roman Jews. As the most detailed source, Tacitus is the only one to point out that the 4,000 Jews drafted were Roman citizens. They were Roman citizens, albeit libertini, or their descendants, meaning they were descendants of them Jews, them Israelites that was taken into Rome by Pompey during 63 BC during the siege of Jerusalem. In contrast, Suetonius Tacitus points out that the draftees were in the right age for military service, meaning that they were between 20 and 40 years old and not just young men. Moreover, Tacitus is the only source who explains the specific purpose of the Jews' service in Sardinia.